Hello and welcome. I'm your host Will. Who doesn't love a good origin story? Be they heroes or villains, we love to see where our favorite characters came from. Because in this video, we're gonna go over an upcoming prequel series that will explain one such character. Let's dive into the facts on Crystal Lake. Let's get to it.
What's up, my horror fans? All the way back in 1980, something huge had happened in the world of horror. Camp Crystal Lake. Yep, even just those three little words sent a chill down my spine. And that was it. That one film led to a sequel, and soon a whole ass franchise developed around our beloved and very scary mama's boy. And before we knew it, the hockey mask became an icon of horror cinema. But then something happened. Jason Voorhees and his serial killing ways vanished off our screens after 2009. Legal battles over rights and whatnot. And now, after all those years, the franchise is finally coming back, but this time in a whole new way. We're getting a TV show, guys. Horror TV shows have been pretty big lately with HBO's It, Welcome to Derry. So it only makes sense for a Friday the 13th TV show. There actually has been one before, but it was weirdly about an antique shop filled with cursed items instead of any of the actual films. But this time, that won't be the case. Around Halloween 2022, Peacock and A24 announced the TV series called Crystal Lake, which is all set to be a prequel story before the original 1980 film. Sounds interesting, right? Think Bates Motel, but with the Voorhees. So it won't just be another reboot, guys. This time we're going all the way back to the beginning. Showrunner Brian Fuller, who has now been replaced by Brad Caleb Kane, basically described it as a pre-remake quel. Don't worry. It basically means that it'll be a prequel that'll remake some parts of the original timeline. It's confusing, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But we do have some other updates, including some legacy character teases and newly released pictures that paint one creepy picture. So let's get to it. Core story breakdown. Okay, so to really understand the story of Crystal Lake, we have to go all the way back to the OG Friday the 13th film. Major spoiler alert. Of course, it's only a spoiler if you live under a rock. But the original killer wasn't actually Jason Voorhees. It was his mother, Pamela. And only once, when she was killed in the first film, did Jason turn into the murderous man we know and love today. Why did Pamela go on her killing spree? Well, it was actually because her son Jason had died by drowning in the lake because the camp counselors weren't paying attention. But the original film doesn't actually give us any detail about how she reached her breaking point, or what kind of a mother she was before the incident happened. And that's exactly what this show is going to cover. Some sort of an origin story for our iconic serial killer mother and son duo. You see, young Pamela Voorhees actually had big dreams. She wanted to become a singer. But then life happened, and she ended up becoming a single mother raising a difficult child in Jason, who was bullied because he was different. Imagine that. Her dreams and her life basically just came to an end. She was clearly already suffering and had a tragic life, and that's what Crystal Lake is going to focus on. In fact, back when Brian Fuller, the mind behind the beautifully haunting Hannibal series, one of my favorites, was still the showrunner, he mentioned that the show will cover the life and times of both of our main characters. He also talked about seeing many familiar manifestations of Jason in the course of the series. So from vulnerable bullied child to drowning victim to hockey mask killer, expect it all. In fact, if you've truly followed Jason and the franchise, then you'll know that at one point, he literally went to space. Yep, Jason Voorhees has been to space. And Brian Fuller did say that they were going to use everything they could. They could go to hell. They could go to space. He said, and I quote, "If we do go 10 seasons, I will be lobbying hard to go to space." Now, of course, there have been changes in direction and showrunners, and current showrunner Brad Caleb Kane has mentioned that it's going to be kind of like a paranoid 70s thriller. He says it has all of the DNA of a slasher without quite being a slasher. There are rivers of blood in the show. There are very, I think, ingenious kill sequences and deaths and murders, but it's all done in service of character and theme and place and time. It came out of the mistrust of institutions era. It came out of the women's lib era, the National Organization for Women era, and this consciousness raising awakening era in America. I wanted to go and play with all of those themes. Sounds interesting, right? Clearly it's time to get excited, guys, especially since on March 13th, which was of course a Friday the 13th, Peacock released the first few looks into the show and they are good. You'll recognize that sweater at first glance, I promise. Cast reveal. Okay, now the cast is gonna excite you even more. Firstly, we've got Linda Cardellini taking on the role of Pamela Voorhees, and considering how much I enjoyed her in the Netflix drama Dead to Me, I'm genuinely looking forward to her performance. Then we have Calum Vinson, who will be playing a young Jason Voorhees. Interestingly enough, Vinson is actually billed as a recurring guest star because this project will focus largely on Pamela. Now, we've seen a whole lot of iterations of Jason, created by Victor Miller. He's been played by Ari Lemon in the original, also Warrington Gillette, Steve Dash, Richard Brooker, Ted White, and so many more. But we've never seen a kid take on the role, so it'll be interesting to see how Vincent approaches it. Apart from them, we've also got Nick Cordelleone, Joy Soprano, Daniel Koch, and Phoenix Parnevik in the cast. Cordelleone will be playing Ralph. Remember Crazy Ralph, who appeared in the first two films? He's basically a Crystal Lake resident who's always drunk and rambling on and on about the curse of Camp Crystal Lake. But guys, this may or may not be the same Ralph that Cordelleone will play. I hope it is, because Ralph definitely knew much more than he was letting on. Then Parvenick will be playing Barry, which might mean Barry Jackson from the OG Friday the 13th film, who was the camp counselor who became Pamela's first victim. Plus, Daniel Koch will probably be playing Claudette, who is Barry's girlfriend and Pamela's second victim. A whole lot of old characters will be here, guys. It'll also star William Catlett as Levin Brooks, Devin Kessler as Brianna Brooks, and Cameron Scoggins as legacy character Officer Dorff. Then there's Christopher Denham, Nancy Nagrant, and Gwendolyn Sundstrom as Grace. Now, there's one particular legacy character that fans have been talking about a lot. You see, Brian Fuller had announced that the OG Adrian King would appear in Crystal Lake, and y'all already know that King played the character of Alice Hardy, aka the OG Friday the 13th final girl in the 1980 film. She's the one who chopped off Pamela Voorhees' head with a friggin' machete. Of course, she was also murdered by Jason at the very beginning of Friday the 13th Part 2, so I'm interested in seeing how King will reprise her character, especially since this news was revealed by Brian Fuller before Kane came on board. I guess that's another thing we'll have to wait and find out. The production timeline. Okay, so this is where things get complicated. Let's start from the very beginning. Back on October 31st, 2022, Crystal Lake was announced with Brian Fuller leading the project and Kevin Williamson writing one episode for season 1. And you all must know Williamson, who wrote the screenplays for Scream, Scream 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and even Scream 4. Moreover, Charlize Theron was initially tapped to play Pamela Voorhees, but then production went off the rails and things got super delayed with the Writers Guild of America strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike in 2023. Then in May 2024, it was announced that Fuller had been fired from the project and replaced by Brad Caleb Kane, who was also behind It, Welcome to Derry. He is now officially the writer, showrunner, and executive producer of the series, along with Victor Miller from the original Friday the 13th coming on as an executive producer, and also Mark Toberoff, Robert M. Barsamian, Robert P. Barsamian, and Stuart Monashil. You guys will also be happy to know that Kane is super excited. Apparently, he's absolutely in love with Jason Voorhees ever since he saw him squeeze a guy's eyeball out of its socket at the tender age of 8 years old. And he's always believed his creative path was someday destined to converge with the man behind the mask. Sounds like a match made in heaven, or hell, to me. Then finally that year, Sean S. Cunningham announced that filming would begin in Australia at the end of the year. Of course, they were hoping for a Halloween 2025 release, but we all know that didn't work out. But then, finally, in March 2026, first look images dropped, and they confirmed that they're close to rolling cameras. The show's going to be an 8-episode series, and apparently it'll be directed by Michael Lennox, who you might know for Dairy Girls, Celine Held, and Logan George, and also Cuyen Tran from The Pit. Peacock announced that Cuyen Tran will be directing episodes 7 and 8, and considering how much I've loved his work in The Pit, I have super high hopes for the finale he has planned in store for us. Oh, and it's also being helmed by A24, and I'm sure all you cinephiles know and love A24. After all, they're the people behind Hereditary, The Witch, and Midsommar. They've even dabbled in TV with Euphoria and the Netflix show Beef. They clearly have a good grasp on the horror genre, and have also managed to reinvent it with films like Hereditary and Midsommar, so you can expect big things. As far as special effects go, we're still in the dark as to who's been brought on board. When Brian Fuller was still in charge, he teased bringing in Tom Savini, who's an absolute legend in the horror genre effects, having worked on Dawn of the Dead and of course, the first Friday the 13th film, as well as Friday the 13th, the final chapter. But who knows what happened after the strikes? Latest updates and release date. Alright, so where does the show stand right now? Unfortunately, we don't have any official release date for Crystal Lake, but production is moving forward full steam ahead, and the show will be exclusively premiering on Peacock. The creative team is clearly building a whole lot of hype with plenty of surprises planned. So, I guess look out for Easter eggs. And, not to get your hopes too high, but there is one more Friday the 13th left in this year, and it's gonna be in November, which is basically still spooky season, right? Sounds like the perfect time for a Crystal Lake release to me. So, what do you guys think about this horror origin story pre-remake Quell? Are you guys excited about the more psychological thriller take, or do you just want the machete chaos back? I personally am really looking forward to it. The first image drop feels very A24, and I love the color gradient and the ambience and feel the images give. Plus, I really liked Bates Motel, so if this wants anything like that, you'd best believe I'll be binge watching it in one sitting straight. Of course, the moment we hear any other news, we'll be here to let you all know. And as always, smash the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more such film and TV updates. And we'll see you next time. Until then, avoid eerie summer camps, okay?